Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel V. Hill, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel V. Hill.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Holy smokes, was the Avalanche game fun to watch last night. Nathan MacKinnon obviously making it an interesting one for a lot of Avalanche fans. Hopefully, everybody went home with all the clothing that they brought besides their hats, but we know that some did not, so plenty of good stuff. Super excited to bring in Jesse Montano from Gorilla Sports to hang out with us for a little bit, because Jesse, you were at the game last night. This team is... I don't know, and I don't know how to feel it. I'm going to get to this question later on in the show, but it should feel like Stanley Cup or bust, but I'm not 100% sure. But I want to go off first just with Nathan MacKinnon, and he's on a different level right now. It's been absolutely so much fun to watch, but what's different about him this year that you've noticed in years past?
So I was actually just talking about this with JJ Jerez. There's something different about his mentality in the locker room. It feels more like he is embracing the leadership, the Gabe Landeskog role. Just to be completely blunt, like Gabe Landeskog always had that relationship with the coaches where he was the link between the players in the locker room and the coaches and management and all of that. And I think the Avs really missed that last year. Like, I think that was something that they maybe didn't fully account for losing. And I think Nathan MacKinnon last year kind of just went about the way that he always has gone about his business. Jared Bednar made a comment last night after the game. He said it was right near the end of the season last year. He started to see a shift in Nathan MacKinnon and his mentality and all of that. And I think that's what we're seeing this year, where Nathan MacKinnon said, this doesn't work without Gabe. I can't do, what I've always done. I have to be the guy. I have to be the leader. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing. I think that's the shift we're seeing. And we've expect Nathan MacKinnon to be elite, but this is on a different level.
So funny, because we've always known that he's been a leader, but so many people have talked about how he was like the quiet leader, right? And it just seems like the shift now, as you're right, has been a vocal leader. Like, he's not giving the media a whole lot, but it seems like behind the scenes, he's very vocal in the locker room.
Yeah, he made the comment last night, or maybe it was on an interview that he did just recently. I can't. The days are running together for me, Rachel.
I feel that.
Where he said that he's learned how to communicate with his teammates the right way, is what he said. And, he's always been a do as I do kind of leader, where it's like, I'm going to hit the gym twice as hard. I'm going to eat right. I'm going to get out there and, work extra. And I think there's always been the level of expectation of like, if you're a teammate of his, you can do that as well. But this year it seems like the way that he's kind of mentoring Jonathan Drouin, there is something about his actual, like you said, vocal communication and leadership that is just different this year. And then he's kind of translated that into taking better care of his body off the ice and the way that he prepares and his nutrition and all of that. And I mean, we're seeing the payoff on the ice. It's unbelievable to watch right now.
The intensity of Nathan MacKinnon, I applaud him so well. I could never beat him. And that's the difference between him and I, for sure. Like, it is so intense every single time you have a conversation with him. And I loved hearing the MVP chants last night at Ball Arena. I think that was so special. We hear about that with Jokic and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't really happen in hockey all that often. Nathan MacKinnon should win the Hart Trophy as long as he continues to play the way he does, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and to me at this point right now, whatever we're in game, 48 or whatever it is, there's no question. It's not even close. It's Nathan MacKinnon in a runaway. Like if the voting was right now, in my opinion, it should be near unanimous. Like he's been unbelievable this year. And, he made the joke in the locker room, like, I heard the MVP chance a few years ago and it didn't help me, because he's been hard snubbed once for MVP. He should already have one under his belt. Finalist 3 times. To me, this is his year right now.
And I think he wants it. I think winning the cup a few years ago started this fire in Nathan MacKinnon, and now it is anything I can possibly do to do it. I want to get back to that season, and I want to get back to that feeling and all of that partying that they did. That was the only time we've ever seen Nathan MacKinnon let loose, was after the cup.
Yeah, no, I tell people all the time, he's the most intense person that I've ever met, and it's in a good way. But I think you're right. He's not a guy that really cares a lot about individual awards and individual accolades, but you know, he's getting into the point of his career where he's right in the middle of his prime.
Yep.
He's still a couple years from 30, but like you can tell he's starting to think a little bit about legacy.
100%.
And,
Human do, Jesse. I mean, we would all
right.
think about our legacy. It's not a fault to any player who thinks about that.
Right, totally. And he looks up so much to a guy like Sidney Crosby. And as much as he talks about, oh, Sid's got the cups and things like that, Sid also has the MVPs and Conn Smythes and all of that stuff. And while I think in an instant Nathan MacKinnon would trade all of that for another championship, you're right. Like you're crazy to think that human nature, you wouldn't want that in the back of your head to say, I want to say that I was the MVP. He's never been a league MVP. Jonathan Drouin was the league MVP in their draft. In their draft year.
Yeah,
that's one thing that has eluded Nathan MacKinnon across a full season, his entire career. I think he's due for one.
I think we all love a chip on Nathan MacKinnon's shoulder. It just makes us think about the future and what's to come. You mentioned a name earlier, though, Gabriel Landeskog. He's back on the ice. I cannot believe he's skating as well as he is. He's obviously still far away, but he looks pretty good, Jesse.
Well, so I made the comment yesterday when we were watching him skate. I said, everyone made a huge deal over the LaMelo ball, right? It's LaMelo. Mm-hmm. When he did the 3 or 4 one-legged squats calling out Stephen A. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, can you believe it?
Yeah.
And here's Gabe Landeskog out on the ice, very lightly, running through drills.
Yeah.
And turning on both legs, stopping, starting, which is not something we saw him do last year. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to get too far ahead of myself. Like you said, he's got a long way to go. I don't think he's coming back this year. If they go to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, I don't think he's coming back. Like I don't think it's on the page for this year.
Wait, that kills me a little, though.
I know. I just think that I don't think they're going to mess around with this. I think they want to be as safe as possible. Emily Kaplan from ESPN reported that when she had a conversation with Avs GM Chris McFarland earlier this year, he said any setback is back to phase 1. Any setback and we're back to the drawing board completely. I don't think they're going to chance that. I don't think Gabe Landeskog wants to chance that. But the fact that he's on the ice in general at this point, I think should be amazingly encouraging to a lot of people. Rachel, I had heard right after the surgery, we don't know. I don't know if he'll get back on skates.
Oh.
And so for it to have gone as well as it has, to the point that, here we are January, yesterday was January 24th, and he's out there taking laps, shooting pucks. And like I said, he ran through 2 drills. He took 2 reps, real soft, real light. The fact that he's doing that, I think everyone should be over the moon at the prospect that, holy smokes, they might actually get this guy back, because there have been, and let's be completely honest, there are still question marks about, can he ever get back to the NHL? The fact that we're seeing this, even if we won't see him this season, is amazingly encouraging.
And of course, all we want is Gabriel Landeskog to be healthy at the end of the day.
Yes.
Avalanche faithful obviously loves him dearly. So definitely
something. I was going to say, the one thing I will say is, off the ice, and he's even talked about this, he's thankfully at a position with this injury where it's really not affecting his day-to-day life.
Oh, that's what you want to hear.
He can walk, he can jog, he can play with his kids, he can, go, hang out, go out with the dog, all of that. It's the skating, it's the impact and stuff like that. So you're 100% right. That's at the end of the day, the number one concern, that these guys are healthy and able to live their lives. And that is the one silver lining with all this, is that according to Gabe Landeskog, when he leaves the rink day to day, it's really not affecting him. I think that's part of what makes it so frustrating for him.
For sure. Looking at Cale Makar last night, the game started off being like the Cale Makar story, and then Nathan MacKinnon obviously took over a little bit. I don't think a lot of people want to admit this, Jesse. I think some people would say it, off camera or whatever, but when he didn't tie Bobby Orr's record, or he didn't beat Bobby Orr's record for the fastest defenseman, I think there was a little bit of, Cale Makar is still great, but he can't be the best. And I think that conversation almost needs to be, I don't know, I don't want to say like shut down, but man, Cale Makar is still so impressive that I don't want that one thing to be the reason that people are like, oh, like he can't be the greatest of all time.
Well, so I look at that as I actually just recently had a conversation with a good buddy of mine that lives in Toronto
Mhm.
about Bobby Orr and Cale Makar, this exact conversation. And I made the point of nobody thought defensemen would touch a
Yeah.
Bobby Orr record or even be close. And the fact that Cale Makar came within 1 point and 1 game of tying the record for fastest defenseman at 300 points,
Yep.
to me, that says everything with the way that the league has changed, that goaltending has evolved. Me and JJ were just talking about, the way that coaches coach the game now is so much different. And the fact that Cale Makar is doing this already, the all-time franchise leader in goals by a defenseman for the Colorado Avalanche, and he's in his, fifth or sixth season. Like, it's just incredible what he's doing for my money. And it's hard to compare eras, training and equipment, and all that. He's the best defenseman that's ever done it to this point. He's changing the game in the way that it'll be played going forward for generations. It's amazing to watch.
I just look at the interviews that he does, and Cale seems to be going into the Nathan MacKinnon, like, mentality, right? Like, I feel like
Yeah.
a few years ago, we kinda got, like, a little bit of a loose, Cale Makar, but now he just seems so serious all the time. Do you think
Yep.
that's the, exhaustion of the NHL season? Do you think it's him taking on a little bit of Nathan MacKinnon's mentality, or is it a little bit of both?
Um, I'll be realistic and say it's probably a little bit of both. I think after a while, the guys kind of, because it's always funny when a new player comes into the league and the media comes in. Yeah, they're super excited to talk and they'll say whatever, and it's like, yeah, you'll hate us in 6 months. But
100%.
Cale, I do think some of it is that kind of championship over everything mentality
Mhm.
of, yeah, the individual accolades are great. That's great. I would rather win. If I have to finish a season with 0 points for us to win, I'm fine with that.
Mhm.
And I think it's that mentality more so than anything else that is kind of, taken over and just he understands, hey, to win at this level, that's kind of the commitment level that you have to have. And I'm willing to do that. I don't need individual accolades. I don't need records. I just need our team to win. And if I can help them do that, cool.
It's so crazy how one thing, lifting that cup over your head, can change how you look at absolutely everything.
Totally. Yep. Totally. And how crazy is it that the Abs have, however many guys that they have that are willing to buy into that mentality.
Oh, 100%. Okay, so let's look ahead then, because I
Okay.
feel like in certain years, it was Stanley Cup or bust, no matter
Mhm.
what. And
Yep.
then there were a few years where it was like, okay, if they can get past the second round, right? We
Mhm.
all remember trying to beat Vegas and yada yada. Is this year Stanley Cup or bust?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think
Oh,
it is.
thank goodness you're telling me that, Jesse, because man,
Yeah.
do I want another parade.
Yeah. No, I think, and to be honest with you, Rachel, I feel like that intensity is ramped up. I think they hit a little bit of a speed bump at the beginning of the season, or in those first month or two, where maybe there was a lot of turnover on this roster, and I think
Mhm.
maybe some of the new guys were having a hard time getting on board with what we were just talking about. Sometimes you got to make sacrifices, to your ice time, so the team can be in a better position to win. And I think there was a little bit of struggle with that, but I think they're starting to see the results. They're starting to see the potential of this group, and no doubt for me that group in there has a Stanley Cup or bust. If we don't, if we're not hanging another banner next October, this was a failure.
Mhm.
I think that's how management looks at it, and I think it says something about the fact that they have that mentality even without Gabe Landeskog. I think that especially a guy like Nathan MacKinnon, there's a little bit of an extra chip on his shoulder to go out and prove like I can carry a team.
Well, and
I can
let's
lead us to a cup.
we have to be honest. They got embarrassed last year when the
Yeah.
Kraken beat
Oh
them.
yeah.
Like,
Yep.
embarrassment stings, and that hangs around for a long time, and that's just a fact.
Right. That Kraken, like they were a good team. Not taking anything away from the team, but at the end of the
100%.
day, optically, you were a 1 seed that lost to an
Yep.
8 seed. You're right. I think that stuck with them all summer.
Yeah, and I think it did change the public. I don't think here in Colorado necessarily, but I think the
Yes.
overall hockey world, it
Yes.
changed their opinion of like, oh, despite them having the best players, like they couldn't do it back to back because of what
Yep.
Tampa Bay did. It became a standard almost. Like Tampa Bay kind of set this standard, and then the Avs weren't able to do it, so people just kind of shrugged their shoulders off. And now I think hopefully that sticks and that sting kind of is there a little bit, and they're like, all right, we have to be able to go back to do it and say last year was just a blimp. We were dealing with some drama, but we're back
Yep.
and we're some of the best players in the NHL, in the world.
I think you're 100% right. I think there's, a little bit of like okay, cool. Everyone wrote us off.
Yeah.
Perfect.
What about
And I
Arturi?
think you're right.
Oh, sorry. I was continue.
No, you're good. I think you're right.
Yeah, it's hard, and I hate to say, oh yeah, my team, got embarrassed, but it's the truth. And
Right.
Arturi Lehkonen obviously was back on the ice last night for the first time since November 9th, obviously dealing with
Yeah.
that neck and head injury. Was his play last night? What'd you think of him?
I didn't really notice him, which is perfect for what for a game like that. A couple good plays where you see him go to the net. He had a big play in the neutral zone to kind of help set up that Cale Makar goal.
Mhm.
But really, for the most part, it was a smart kind of quiet night for him. And when you go 2 months without playing in a game and you have to jump right back into the NHL, that can be tough. So I thought a nice quiet night for him was perfect.
Oh, exactly, and I was kind of the same way where I'm like, if we don't notice him, that's probably a good thing,
Yeah.
because that means, well, one, obviously, if he gets a goal or something of that nature, great, and everyone
Right.
can celebrate, but I need him to do other things on the ice and allow the players like Nathan MacKinnon or Cale Makar or Mikko to be able to put pucks in the back of the net and do that, and I think that's what this team needs. Obviously, a trade
Mhm.
deadline is gonna be here before we know it. Do you
Yeah.
anticipate the Avs making any moves, or do you think that they've kind of found their rhythm?
I think they are with the championship or bust mentality. I'll put it this way. I'll be surprised if they don't do something significant.
Okay.
Now, maybe I shouldn't be overly surprised because they've done this to us in the past where it feels like they're building to something and then they don't really do anything. But there will be movement. I don't think that they feel, look, just call it what it is. They're not satisfied with what they've gotten out of Ryan Johansson. I think they were hoping that he could be a much bigger solution in the top half of the lineup than he has been.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to look to address that. I don't know, are they going to take the big swing, potentially moving a guy like Bowen Byram level swing right now in season? Gosh, I don't know. That maybe feels something more like for the offseason if you're getting into that kind of territory. But I think they're going to look to improve that top six because they feel like, I think they believe we have a chance to win. For us, it's championship or bust, and we got to give ourselves the best opportunity to do that.
Fair. Jesse, always a pleasure. I'm glad that you are back in Colorado for a little bit. Are you ready for your next road trip? It's going to be here before you know it.
Yeah, I know. It's we got everything finalized yesterday, and I looked at the calendar. I was like, a week? Oh my gosh! Yeah, it'll be here quick. But one more Avs game, we get a few days off, so
True.
it'll be good. Rachel, thank you so much for having me on. I always love chatting with you anytime.
Oh, anytime. I love having you on. So much good Avalanche knowledge over there. So thank you so much.
Thanks.
Jesse Montoya, everybody. Everybody else, we'll see you tomorrow, 12 p.m. Mountain Time for another episode of Coffee Break. Love you guys. Bye, everybody.